Sophie had always believed marriage was a long conversation. Not a fairy tale, not a battle, just two people talking through the years. That's why, when James began coming home later and later, she didn't panic. She told herself, it's the job, it's the pressure, it's life. The first signs were small. A stray hair on his blazer that wasn't hers. A faint scent of perfume she couldn't place. A sudden, almost teenage nervousness when she asked simple questions. But then came the receipt. She found it on a Tuesday evening, tucked behind a faded business card in his wallet while she searched for spare change. The paper was crisp. Dinner for two. A restaurant with a name she'd never heard of, expensive enough that even reading the price made her blink. A bottle of champagne, and the date. Last Thursday. That was the night he stumbled in at 11:47 p.m., mumbling about an after-hours strategy meeting, kissing her forehead in the dark. She didn't cry. Not then. She folded the receipt neatly, put it back where she found it, and spent the rest of the evening slicing vegetables with steady, mechanical precision. On Friday morning, over coffee, she suggested a weekend trip. Just us. No work, no phones, she said. James looked up sharply, too sharply. This weekend? Yes, I found this cabin online. Gorgeous view, private, no reception. Perfect escape. There was the smallest pause, so slight she might have imagined it. Then he smiled. Sounds amazing. The cabin sat at the edge of a forest, surrounded by towering pines that whispered when the wind passed through. The drive there was long and winding, the kind of road that made you feel far from everything. James unloaded the bags in silence. Sophie noticed he kept checking his phone, as though hoping for a signal. Saturday was calm, almost pleasant. They walked the trails, made lunch together, laughed too loudly at nothing. By evening, Sophie could feel the invisible clock ticking in his head. After dinner, she poured 2 glasses of wine. The firelight made his face look older, more tired. I found something in your wallet, she said, her voice steady. The glass froze halfway to his lips. Sophie, I can... Before he could finish, headlights cut through the curtains, gravel crunched. James's chair scraped back as he stood, face draining of color. The knock didn't come. The door opened, and a woman stepped inside without hesitation. She was striking in the way anger makes someone sharper. Her eyes went straight to Sophie, then to James. You didn't tell her, she said, voice shaking with fury. Sophie leaned back in her chair. Oh, he told me, she said softly. I just thought you deserved to meet in person.
The woman blinked. Told you? About me? Sophie smiled, slow, deliberate. About you, about her, and about the one before her. James's mouth opened, but no sound came. 3 women in 6 months, James, Sophie continued. You're thorough. The stranger turned to him, face pale. 3? Outside, the pines whispered. Inside, the air thickened into something sharp. I invited you both here, Sophie said, her tone almost casual, because I wanted to see his face when he realized the two of you had already been talking. The woman's jaw tightened. Talking? James asked, bewildered. Yes, Sophie said, lifting her wine. Funny thing about betrayal, it's contagious. The other woman's phone lit up with a message. She held it up so James could see the sender's name. It was Sophie's. The screen read, "He's yours now. I'm done." James's voice cracked. What does that mean? Sophie stood, grabbed her coat, and walked past them both. At the door, she paused. "It means," she said, "that the locks will be changed by the time you get home. And don't bother calling. I already called your boss about your late nights." The wind outside was cold, but the smile on her face was warm. Behind her, James was still speaking, or maybe begging, but she didn't turn back. 2 years later, Sophie had moved back to the city. Her apartment was small, but elegant, filled with light and the quiet satisfaction of a space that was entirely hers. She had gone back to school, finished her master's degree, and now taught literature at a university. The cabin weekend had been the final scene of her marriage, but not the end of her story. Her divorce lawyer had been creative. Between documented evidence of James's infidelity and the strategically timed conversation with his boss, Sophie walked away with a larger settlement than she'd expected. She invested most of it, carefully and quietly, while never speaking James's name again. She didn't date much, not because she was bitter, but because she had grown comfortable in her independence. She liked the feeling of choosing her company rather than needing it. James had not fared as well. After the cabin incident, word of his late nights reached not only his employer, but the industry. In a field where reputation was currency, he became untouchable. He bounced between short-term contracts, each one smaller than the last. The woman from the cabin, her name was Claire, had left within weeks once she realized he wasn't the victim he painted himself to be. Financial strains set in. He sold his car, then his condo. The last Sophie had heard, he was renting a room in a shared house on the outskirts of town, still chasing marketing gigs that never materialized. He avoided social media. Too many people from his old life knew the story, or at least enough of it to look at him with thinly veiled judgment. Claire, oddly enough, had become friends with Sophie. Not close friends, more like two people linked by a strange, intimate battle scar. They met for coffee once every few months, sharing updates and occasionally laughing at the absurdity of it all. "I don't know if I'll ever fully trust someone again," Claire admitted one day. "You will," Sophie said, stirring her coffee. "You just won't trust them blindly." One rainy night, 2 years to the month after the cabin, Sophie walked past a small bar and spotted James inside. He was sitting alone, nursing a drink, staring at nothing. She didn't see him. For a moment, she considered stepping inside, saying something, anything. But then she realized she didn't owe him words, not anymore. She kept walking, her reflection in the wet pavement, looking forward, never back.